All right, hello. My name is Rob Horton. I am the Chief Marketing and Communications Officer for the Charlotte Regional Business Alliance, and I'm chatting here today with John Mader. John is the VP of Connections at Wray Ward. So John, welcome. The topic that we're going to talk about today is effective marketing strategies in a downturn. So John, why don't you introduce yourself and talk a little bit about Wray Ward?
Sure, thanks, Rob. Yeah, Wray Ward's a integrated marketing communications firm. It's been around for 43 years now in Charlotte, headquartered in Charlotte with one office. We have a primary focus in the home industry, but also service brands and nonprofits across the Charlotte region. My job as the vice president of our connections team is to really understand audiences and how they use media across all the different channels. So everything from paid media through search marketing, performance media type tactics, into public relations, content marketing, social media, and the like, and as well as direct and CRM. So really understanding all those audience channels, how brands and companies should communicate with audiences in the best way to ultimately, build relationships with those customers and drive sales.
Awesome. Okay, thank you. So, John, recently we did a survey with some of the area businesses and just sort of trying to understand a little bit better about how they're dealing with the COVID-19 pandemic. And a couple of the survey points or takeaways from that survey that I thought were really interesting is, 63% of businesses are concerned with protecting revenue and sales. That's probably not a surprise. And that 58% of the businesses in the region are protecting their customer base by having meetings with their key customers. Given kind of what is going on in this pandemic and this shelter at home, that probably becomes a little bit more of a challenge. So I'd like to start with my first question is, how should businesses and brands kind of think about their marketing investment in the face of this downturn?
Yeah, I think the hardest thing for all of us and for every brand is every situation is different. Every company is facing different challenges. Some are facing demand challenges, some are facing supply challenges, some are facing, employee challenges, some are, if you're sold through retail, your stores are closed, right? So you're maybe shifting more of an e-com strategy and focusing on that. Every company, every challenge is different. And so every solution is a little bit different. I think the other big challenge is that as we've been sheltering in home now we're in week 4, the mood and the mindset of the audiences and the consumers and the customers, whether that's B2C or B2B landscapes, are changing as well. The longer we stay in this current format of doing life, our habits are changing, right? And our acceptance of our situation is changing, and our ability to be comfortable with different things like Zoom chats, video conferencing is changing, and people are adapting, and I think they're adapting pretty quickly. There's a lot of philosophy and behavior change circles that it takes about 4 weeks, it takes 28 days to really change someone's behavior, and we're running up right on that. So it's going to be interesting to see how those behaviors stick in the future, how long they stick. But when you think about what brands, what companies can be doing now, it really is about communicating. So it doesn't surprise me that 58% said the most important thing was communicating or meeting with their clients. Hopefully they're doing that from a socially distance appropriate format. I assume a lot of that's going on video chats, on phone calls, through emails, through other digital means. But there's never anything more important than that. Really staying in connection with your customers. I think from a big corporate standpoint, enterprise level type company, taking care of your small and medium sized business customers and staying connected with them on what's going on in the world is extremely important. If you are one of those small businesses and it's about foot traffic into a retail store or a restaurant, it's about communication. What are you doing now to stay open? How are you taking care of your teams? And how are you taking care of your customers? What can you still deliver right now? How can you still be a valuable part of their life, part of their experience, part of their work? And keep moving forward as best you can. I think the winners that we're seeing out there right now, or if anyone's really winning, but the ones that are doing the best are adopting to that type of language of how can we support you in the place that you are, and trying to stay as positive as possible while doing that.
I think that's really important. I mean, understanding your audience and kind of their mindset, especially how that's shifting, is important to keep top of mind. I know myself over the last few weeks, I've gotten a few messages that feel very tone deaf to me, like that they were created well before the pandemic and nothing has really changed. So as you think about, some unique marketing opportunities that brands and businesses should consider during this time, what would be some of those unique marketing opportunities that different brands and businesses should be considering?
There is a huge uptick in digital media consumption with everyone being at home, which, equates to the opportunities being in digital, being, whether that's through video, through email, through website, through content. Those are the challenges, the channels that are going to work really hard for you right now. And we're seeing with our clients, the ones that are continuing their programs at the same pace, they're expanding their reach, so expanding their awareness, the number of people that they get their brand in front of, as well as expanding their engagements at the same or lower costs. So because there's so much media consumption going on right now, online specifically, the cost for those views is going down, which results in a lower cost per click because there's more competition for those views, as well as brands pulling back. We've seen specifically Amazon has pulled back a huge amount of advertising that they normally do through Google, as an example, and through paid search. And that provides a lot of opportunity for other brands to get their products, get their brands in front of interesting consumers that are raising their hands, that are doing those searches online in a way that's incredibly cost effective right now. So the other thing that I would tell companies to do is don't stop reaching out. Don't be afraid to make a misstep or afraid of being tone deaf and talking to customers that you already have, customers that are part of your CRM, part of your database, people that you communicate with regularly on an ongoing basis in normal business times. Keep communicating with them. Let them know what's going on with your company. Let them know, especially if you have product available and your competitors don't, or just if you have products available in general, or if your sales staff is available to talk to them, or your customer service staff is available to take care of them. Communicate those things. And if it's the opposite, communicate those things too, and let them know when you will be back up and running, when, what steps you are taking to be able to continue your business as best as possible.
Great. Thank you, John. What about small businesses? Is there anything that a small business in particular should consider versus a large or an enterprise business, especially those that might not have necessarily the marketing budget to spend? What could they do on their own, or what are some effective things that might be valuable for them to do in this environment?
Yeah, lots of small businesses, even if they don't have a big budget, they do have email lists, right? Or they've done some type of marketing in the past. You see some retail stores that are doing the curbside pickup, order online, swing by, we'll bring it out to your car. Some of the things that really resonated with me over the last few weeks from a local business standpoint, I guess it's mostly restaurants, and even some of the bigger retailers, is just their appreciation for you being there as a customer. You order a pizza and you run down the street to pick it up, and they're just incredibly thankful that you walk in the door. And they've done everything they can within their establishment with the tape on the ground. And I was in a pizza place last night, and they had a cup for pins that had been disinfected to sign your receipt with, and then a cup for pins that people had touched on the other side. And it was just a really nice little touch that made you feel safe in doing business with them. And I think, there's definitely going to be fear, and a lot of fear with a lot of the small business people going out, right, and shopping, and supposed to be staying at home. But any ways that you can just make your customers feel safe in dealing with you and still being, a valuable part of their life. And it's hard to give a general answer to that because the businesses are so different. But I think just continuing to serve your customers as best you can. And again, trying to stay positive, when you're doing it, and not adding to the fear, but trying to add a little optimism to people's lives, and a little positivity, and just, the sense that we're all human, we're all doing the best we can right now.
Right. Yeah, I think that leveraging the connections that you have, whether that be through your social networks or your email lists, and remembering to kind of strike the right tone in all of your interactions, so that there's a lot of positivity, and your customers recognize how appreciative you are of their business, especially during this time. So that's great.
I agree. That's a great point. That's really important on social media as well. That the tone, more than any other channel, the tone on social is the most important, because it gives the opportunity for the audience to provide the most visible feedback. So it's really important to have the right tone on social. But I think even what we're seeing over the last 4 weeks, that evolution on social, it started almost as a really dangerous place to be at all, right? Everyone was just, if you were trying to do any kind of business as usual, you're getting crushed. And I think what we're seeing now more of is the general consumer audience is more receptive to some of that business as usual. One, because they're looking for escapism. And the other side is they know that if that company's out there trying to sell and they're buying from them, they're supporting someone's job, and they're keeping someone employed. So you're starting to see a lot of that too.
So are there any brands or businesses that come to mind for you that seem to be getting it right? You talked about your local pizza place and their thoughtfulness in their pen distribution, but what else? What else stands out to you as kind of like a business that's really, or a brand that really seems to be getting it right?
So some of the big brands, that have the big campaigns that are easier to track and easier to see. Visa, is a huge sponsor of the Olympics every 4 years. And they had invested a ton in sponsoring athletes and advertising and all these campaigns they had built for this summer. And once the Olympics got canceled, they really pivoted hard, and they grabbed a handful of athletes internationally, and they had them shoot their own spots in their homes with their phones, showing them washing their hands, and then quasi-training, fake training for their events. So the one that stood out to me was the pole vaulter in her little apartment with her pole vault. And she's, trying to get a little angle to, practice pole vaulting. But then there's a message about, social distancing and hand washing, right? It's a do good with a creative spin on it. Walmart came out with a spot last week that had their store associates singing Lean On Me from all across the country, and with, photos from in-store, out-of-store that, really was working hard as well. P&G had a campaign with a TikTok influencer that was hashtag distance dance, I believe is the right hashtag, that they committed to donating to a couple different nonprofits for the first 3 million video shares that people put out on TikTok with that hashtag. And that hashtag has almost 10 billion views already. So those are obviously huge brands with a lot of money, right? A lot of resources that we're spending money, right, on all these different campaign elements. But those are the three that the last week anyway really stood out to me as some of the most creative solutions.
Great. John, is there anything that I haven't covered? Any other comments that you'd like to share with the audience about, marketing in this environment?
I think kind of what I started with, that it's hard right now, right, for everyone. And you get all this data. I don't know what your inbox looks like. Mine is every other email is a report from someone with some data about the last 2 weeks, some survey with customers, surveys in different markets. And it's a lot of great information. I think you consume as much of that as you can and try to make some sort of intelligent projections out of it. But the hard part is it's all looking back. And the decisions that have to be made are going forward, right? Into the future in a market that doesn't make any sense, right? An environment that just seems to change every other day. So I think, one, don't be too hard on yourself. You can't beat yourself up. You know, as a business owner, try to protect your people as well as possible and protect your business as well as your customers. Obviously delivers on that. And, you know, just do the best you can. Try to find some positive, try to stay positive, and, you know, keep walking forward. You know, there's some new reports out this week from the new, you know, projections on the crisis and the levels of hospitalizations, you know, that are coming down. They're looking at this first wave ending by June, you know, so there's starting to be a little light at the end of the tunnel too. So just keep marching towards it, and, you know, do the best you can with what you got.
That's awesome. John, thank you. Thank you for your time and your expertise. What I took away from this conversation is communicate often and clearly with your customers. Utilize, you know, those whatever tools you have available, and keep your message positive, and recognize that you know, we're all going to come out of this, and the brands that communicate often and keep their customers close will come out of it in an even stronger position than those that don't. So thank you. The information was incredibly helpful, and I appreciate your time today.
You bet. Thanks, Rob.